federal parliament's divided up into two parts or two structures. So you have the House of Representatives, which is also known as the People's House, and each member represents the people of their electorate. And Australia is divided into electorates based on population. So voters in each electorate choose one person to represent them in the House of Representatives, and then you also have the Senate, also like sometimes called the upper house, and voters from each state, the ACT and the Northern Territory, elect senators to represent them in the Senate. All states are equally represented in the Senate, regardless of their size or population, but not the ACT or the Northern Territory. So each state elects 12 senators, but the ACT and the NT only elect 2 senators each. So state senators are elected for a 6-year fixed term, with half of their senators elected every 3 years. But territory senators are elected for the term of the House of Representatives, which is 3 years. So that's why every 3 years we have a House of Representatives election, and we have half of the senators up for election every federal election time. And that's really mainly so that you keep some consistency within the Senate. So you've got a proportion of people that are experienced and able to hold the government account. And we'll go into that a bit more about the Senate's responsibilities. But focusing on the House of Representatives, you can see here that Australia is divided up into 151 electorates, each represented by one member. And under the Constitution, each state is guaranteed at least 5 members, but all states except Tasmania now have more. And that's based on population. There's a lot more population in the states and territories, so that they have more electorates to make it more even in the distribution. And so in the last election, there are 117,000 enrolled people per electorate. That's just shifted for this federal election, not by much, but we've just had like a redistribution of electorates, and that's just to make sure that all electorates have the same amount of population. So there was like a shift in Sydney, in Grainla, and the city of Sydney. Their boundaries shifted a little bit because of like population density, as well as like in West Melbourne as the other example that comes to mind. So those boundaries or those lines of those electorates shift based on population changes there. And yeah, that really impacts the makeup of the House of Representatives. And you can see here. And how it looks is you can see all of the Labor, the red there, and the green and the blue, which is the Liberal National Party. And then you've got your independents and Greens there. Now, the difference between the two here, you can see that it looks like it's quite a high Liberal vote, but that's because those are areas that are quite geographically not dense of population, like they've got low population density, so they're bigger geographical areas. So like the more you go into a city, the closer people are together, so that the smaller geographically the different electorates are. So that's why it looks like on this map that there are lots of Liberal national parties. So you can see here the Green, and here the Liberal, and then the Labor. You've got independents in orange there. But when you look at here, there's a lot more Labor, and that's because they have more of the city or metropolitan vote electorates. And then the Liberal National Party and Greens. And then over here, you can see the Senate. So there's not as many seats within the Senate, but you can see that it's a different makeup, because over here, you're voting in the House of Representatives for your local representative. But in the Senate, it's more of a vote for who are the people that align the values of your state. And like they're going to be the people that are going to be there for 6 years. So like who are the people that demonstrate the values and the policies of the state. So there's a different makeup within the Senate there. And when you're looking at a television, you can see that there's a House of Representatives there, which is green, and then the Senate is red over there too. And the difference between the two of them there is that the House of Representatives is responsible for forming government. So, looking back at here, is that you need a majority of representatives, of local representatives, to form government in the House of Representatives. So, you can see that both the House and the Senate are responsible for proposing, debating, and voting on bills and amendments, both or decide matters. They're all scrutinizing, but it's just different in terms of like what committees that they decide on, and like their daily functioning. And because the Senate is responsible for like scrutinizing the bills that come through from the House of Representatives. So all of the legislation must pass from the House of Representatives to the Senate. And because the Senate is every 6 years, they represent a much more like stable view of the what people's values and policies are. So they can change things or amend things. They can examine issues in committees. They really have a scrutinizing role of the government of the day. Looking at this graph, and we've just touched on before, that the House of Representatives is the one that forms government. So what that means is you need a majority in the House of Representatives to form government. So, and that's like having a majority of the members, and you can see that here that for the Albanese, Scott Morrison, Malcolm Turnbull, and Scott Morrison, and then the Tony Abbott and the Malcolm Turnbull, we've all had majority governments, which means they've all had a majority within the House of Representatives, which you can see here. The last time we had a minority government was in 2010 when Labor formed a minority government with 3 independents and 1 Green. So, to dive in that a bit more, what happened is that there was a hung parliament, which meant that there was no political party that had enough seats to secure an overall majority of members in the House of Representatives. So, over here, they didn't have a majority of seats, so it was a hung parliament. So, what that means is that they had to go through a period of time to form a minority government. So to govern with the majority of all members. So you can see here what they did in 2010. And so the federal election resulted in a hung parliament. So no party or coalition of parties, so the LNP or the Liberal National Coalition, had more than half of the members in the House of Representatives. So to form a government or a party or coalition of parties needs 76 seats or more. So the Australian Labor Party won 72 seats in 2010, and the Liberal National Party won 73 seats, but there were 5 seats that were won by minor party or independents. So for 17 days, both the major parties attempted to gain the support of 5 minor parties or independents, but after negotiations, the support of 4 members of these were gained by the Labor Party, so that they formed the first minority government that Australia has had since 1940, which is a while ago. So a parliamentary minority is when a government formed by a party or coalition party does not have a majority within the House of Representatives, but it governs with the support of all members. So that's the support that was gained by those within there. So why that's important